Our next panel is software evolution following hardware evolution. So let me introduce you first of all Scott Abram from Intel. It's right here in the middle. And we have Bastien Guéry, is this pronounced in the right way?
Yeah.
Guéry, okay, from the OLPC project. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen with software for netbooks and how this market is going to change in 2010 and what happened after the hardware evolution of netbooks now with software platforms. Well, let's start with you, Scott. Scott, we met for the first time during IDF back in September in San Francisco, and Intel was announcing the Atom Developer Program. Could you just briefly introduce yourself and, of course, tell us a little bit more about the Atom Developer Program?
Sure. So I'm responsible for the Intel's developer network called Intel Software Network. And you probably don't recognize Intel as really much of a software company, but we actually have a pretty significant effort to engage with software developers and help them take advantage of the latest features that Intel puts in the chips. And so with 50 million netbook devices out there in the market this year, and very little software specifically written for netbooks, we saw an opportunity. We saw an opportunity to help developers out here and help users as well. Because we have relationships with all the netbook OEMs and manufacturers. We have a software developer program. Let's connect the dots here and provide an app store framework to bring apps to netbook users. So at Intel Developer Forum in September, we announced the Atom Developer Program. And the first phase of that was to say, hey, developers, we're going to help you write applications targeted specifically for netbooks. And that's what we rolled out at IDF. The response to that was very, very positive. We also said we have some partners, OEMs, who are going to be pre-installing app stores on their netbooks. So when users purchase a netbook, they'll have an app store on there and can then go to a catalog and purchase and download applications. And developers say, ooh, now I have a chance to actually reach this specific audience versus just posting it on the web somewhere and hoping users will find the application. So that was the initial announcement. Then just last week, we rolled out the beta version of the SDK that's going to make this possible. And the SDK, what it does is it provides some basic services for a developer to take their application and get it ready for the store, make it store ready. Services such as authorization, so that when an app is purchased, the device knows and the store knows that this is a valid application that's been purchased, the user has the right to use that. This fundamental store services there. Developers still use their regular development environment, development tools that they do to build applications. In fact, they can build applications for Microsoft Windows or for mobile. It supports both of those. And so now we're in we announced that last week, had good response. We've had thousands of developers already join the program in a very short amount of time, download the SDK, actually started submitting their applications already since last week when we first announced this. We've already getting our first applications in. They've started the validation process and getting it ready for launch of the store. So that's what I'm here to talk about today is how we are extending the netbook now with applications that are more targeted for netbook usage models.
Well, thank you, Scott. And like on the first panel, feel free to ask questions whenever you want to ask a question so we can immediately respond to this. Oh, that was quick. Walter, please go ahead.
So is this development environment Windows only, or is it Windows and GNU Linux?
It's actually for both. Yeah, both development environments are supported. We have OEMs who are planning on shipping both Linux versions, remote versions, and Windows versions, and we'll support both those. Another question I saw, hand up?
It was a similar question, but how can we access the SDK kit of Linux? From where?
Yeah.
There is a portal of that?
Yeah, there is. If you go to appdeveloper.intel.com, that's where the beta version of the SDK is available, and all the information on this whole program is available as well.
For Linux?
Yeah, you'll get the, see what I mentioned before is that the Atom Developer Program, SDK, really prepares your application to be for the store. You still need to develop, have a Linux development environment. So if you go to moblin.org, you'll get the full Linux development tools to create your application in Linux. Okay.
That sounds good. So let's head over to you, Bastian. Maybe you can just, I think you have to use this one. You're just stealing the batteries out of the other one. So, well, somehow we're coming back, to where it all began, right, with the OLPC, and we already had a great speech this morning from Walter, introducing us a new version of the sugar interface. And so, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your position in the OLPC project?
Yeah, thanks. OLPC is two sides. Like one side is the OLPC Boston project, talking directly with the governments, trying to sell the laptops and trying to organize all this. The other side is the community. And the community is grassroots organizations all over the world. These grassroots organizations are made of tech people, geeks, educators, and people working on the sugar open source software and so on. So I've been part of the OLPC Boston project. I've been to Haiti. I've been helping with the deployment in Haiti in 2008 for 2 months. That was very thrilling to see how the laptops could be deployed and to work with the teachers and to help spread knowledge about GNU Linux in this community, about Wikipedia, all this open source knowledge, ecology. And from that time, now I'm working as a volunteer in OLPC France, and we are connecting different dots. Like the dots we're connecting is the people from the community, all the volunteers in the world. And with Lionel, is the president of OLPC France, and with Sean, and there are many people who are doing projects to help both the software and both the knowledge about OLPC deployment in French-speaking countries and so on. So here it is.
Sounds pretty interesting. As we know, there were quite some changes in the OLPC project, and let's say in the last 2 years, right? Some people left the company, some other people joined the company. You changed your hardware platform from the GOD processor now to a VRC7M, which definitely is a huge performance gain, I guess. I think it should be like about 2 to 3 times faster than the GOD processor. When we look back at the beginning, while the OLPC project was announced as a $99 laptop, where can you see this project aiming for right now, especially after the netbooks became so popular? Aren't even netbooks kind of cannibalizing the market for the OLPC?
Sorry, can you say again the last question?
Oh, if netbooks are kind of hurting sales for the OLPC in general?
I don't know. I cannot talk about that because I'm not really a specialist about marketing, about all these commercial aspects. But what I can say is that for OLPC there have always been projects, like ongoing projects, ongoing machines people are working for and working on all the tech people, and crazy ideas that are even more disruptive. Both sides are disruptive. Pushing machines like very low-cost machines is already disruptive for the market, and the next ideas are even more disruptive. So maybe you've heard Nicolas Negroponte talking about the XO 3.0. This is not yet a project because there is nobody working on the machine itself. This is an idea, a crazy idea. And OLPC has been working like that, like the XO 1.0 was a crazy idea at the time. Now it's a project, it's ongoing, and it has done its effect. I cannot measure this effect, but it's quite obvious that the whole market has been realizing that there was a huge opportunity to make money and so on, and that's good. And on the other side, all people working on crazy ideas and the next ideas that we need to have to continue pushing not only the projects, but implementations, deployments, and try to make the market follow and everyone keep up with the pace of innovation. Even at the very educational level, like for example, all the many third world countries are doing lots of work about education implementation that we are just trying to cope with. Like in France, we are translating the work done in Peru, Uruguay about what the teachers have been doing. So this is the other way around. Like the market is pushing, is helping distributing more laptops, and the cycle is wrong when we try to cope with all this content and all these initiatives that they are directly benefiting from.
Well, I remember at the beginning of the OLPC project, you had quite a momentum in the open source community. A lot of developers and open source guys were embracing the OLPC project, right, and were developing and helping you. How is the level of development right now? What is the feedback out of the community? Can you give us a brief overview of how many people are involved in the OLPC project a little bit, and how the community is working together?
Honestly, I don't know. But there was a crisis, that was the truth, but I don't even know, I don't even have any precise idea about the crisis itself. What is sure is that open source developers are still working. The fact that Sugar platform, the free software Sugar platform, is developed by the community and that is not part now of the OLPC project, I think it's good for the project, for both sides of the project, because it's clear where you are working, whether you want to work just for the free software aspect, or you want to work for the machine and the educational content and so on. And so I don't have any numbers, but I feel the spirit is there, that the open source community is understanding what is the aim, and you have two types of open source guy. The one just involved in open source, and if he's fixing something in the kernel for that is useful for the Fedora version of the Mandriva version of Sugar, then that's fine. And there is also the guy behind, I don't know, Moodle or educational project who wants to help education and sees the Sugar platform as a very good opportunity to work on disruptive economy ideas about education. For example, if you just take the work about e-books readers on the Sugar platform, it's better than anything you can see around in any educational environment. And if you're a developer, you're interested in education, you go there. And at the end, there are also open source developers that are taking care about I don't know, third world problem, that want just to share knowledge and to share what they have. Like.
I mean, that's a pretty good. Oops. That's a pretty good point, especially for a panel with the name Software Evolutions Following Hardware Evolutions, that you just named ebook readers on the OLPC, because due to this fantastic display from Mary Lou Gibson, this is of course a perfect device to do ebook reader software for it and to use it as an ebook reader. The interesting thing, or the similarity or synergy between you guys, is kind of interesting, because on the one hand, you are aiming for, you know, the open source community, and you want to get developers joining this program, this OLPC project, to make a difference in terms of education in general. Well, Intel has a little different approach. Not that I'm not saying, you know, you don't want to have any educational software on your App Store, right? But at the end of the day, with the App Store, you're trying to establish the first platform for developers on a netbook to monetize their work. So, in which way are you going to promote the App Store? What are you doing to get developers joining the App Store and let them know, hey, there's something going on, and next year there will be a change on this market?
Yeah, because you're right. One of the most important aspects of this whole program is that it provides developers an opportunity to make money. That's important to them. They're looking for new business opportunities, and we hope that this app store and this channel to netbook users is a good, viable business model for them. So we're getting the word out to them in lots of different ways. Initially it was just our IDF announcement, the Intel Developer Forum announcement, and last week our announcement, and boy, the response to that has been very strong. In addition to that, we're planning quite a bit of outreach to developers. We do this today already to talk about the new features of our chips and platforms. We tell software developers how do they take advantage of that, what kind of tools are available for them to unlock the hardware and write new software applications. Now we have a new message to tell them. We go out there and say, hey, we have a way for you actually to help you sell your applications. We haven't ever done that before, so they're very interested in that. They love the App Store model in general because two reasons. One is, well, for larger ISVs today, there's 50 million netbook users out there. So they look at it and go, wow, that's a big opportunity, big install base. I'd love to help tap into that. For the small developers, what they like about this is they don't have to have their own marketing department, their own distribution channel, and all the overhead that goes along with that. They can focus on what they do best, and that's write innovative, cool software. So we're already seeing a lot of smaller companies, individual developers jump on this and say, oh, I've been waiting for something like this so I can get my applications directly to end users without all that overhead.
Let's go back to Bastian. You've been mentioning that ebook readers are one of the most favorite applications on the OLPC project. Could you just give us an idea of what other applications are really working out on the OLPC?
There is a whole continuum between ebooks reading applications, and for example, there's one application called Info Slicer, where you're just mixing Wikipedia entries and learning how to build Wikipedia articles. So that's very useful in countries where you have internet in schools where you can work on this. And from that you can work with the write activity, which is basic word processor, but even this basic stuff combined with the power of the journal. So the journal, I think Walter has been presenting the journal, like this idea of a notebook where you can have all your entries from yesterday, from last week, and so on. So we are working, for example, with the project called La Main à la Pâte. I don't know if you know this project. This is ongoing for the last 15 years in France about science education, getting hands-on with experimentation for kids. So they have been developing an activity about observing the moon, the different phases of the moon. And for this activity, the main tool that I have in the classroom is the journal, the experimentation journal. So they had this problem so far about using computers because they couldn't do anything about science with using just a computer. Files, directories, that was just confusing for them. They don't have this facility of keeping track of everything they do, whereas when you have paper, it's very easy. You have the school, each child can just jot down what he's been observing and so on and share with others. And this you can do with the Sugar interface, like just write activity, the journal, and you can embed pictures that you're taking about the moon and so on, and this creates a whole environment. So from ebooks to this info slicer, where you can let really children collaborate on stuff together, to this journal where they collaborate, and this you can plug with real physical interactions that usually happens even for very sophisticated curriculum. So in other applications, the best application so far is like Record. So recording, taking pictures and recording audio and small videos. This is wonderful. Like children, they love that, and teachers, they love that because that's very low level. There is no entry for that. There is no deep literacy needs for that, and you can build upon very easily. Like you can share, you can build upon pictures, text, you can add annotations on the pictures. And this is very easy to let everyone, and saturation in the classroom, to let everyone collaborate on that. Everyone, including the teachers.
So I think in general, network manufacturers and our software developers can learn a lot from the OLPC project, especially in terms of educational software. Intel also has a kind of competitor for the OLPC, it's the so-called Classmate PC. And I met with you guys from the Classmate PC project also during the IDF, and they've been showing also like some 12 or 13 different user scenarios for the Classmate PC. Can you also see Moblin and App Store are aiming for the Classmate PC and for the educational market?
Yeah, so I'm actually not an expert on the Classmate PC, but I can tell you it sure is successful, and we're seeing a lot of children using it these days, and education plays a key role in that, just like we're hearing here, that that's one of the great purposes for the Classmate PC as well, as it's helping to educate children around the world. And the App Store model, it certainly could apply to that as well. We haven't quite figured out exactly how that would work, but education and the netbooks have a natural fit there. Even beyond the Classmate PC, but just think the general netbooks out there, there's a lot of education software opportunities, and we've seen that usage today that mothers are getting netbooks for their kids to help them practice for school and to study, and college students are using more and more netbooks as well for education. So I definitely think it's a category that's going to be in the App Store, is education in general, and now we'll see what kind of new education applications emerge and start to populate that category.
And it's kind of interesting, especially during Walter's speech or after Walter's speech, we had these 3 different educational netbooks over here. Everything started with the OLPC, and then again, when I'm saying, okay, competition drives us into innovation, and the OLPC was somehow starting it, and out of a sudden we also had the Dell Latitude 2100, also very, very nice netbook with a great ecosystem around it. I can only recommend you guys to take a look at it also on the internet. It's not only the single device itself, but it's a complete ecosystem around it. They have a huge recharger where they can store 30 of these Dell Latitudes and can recharge them at one time, and where they can here we go. Fantastic, thank you so much. So that's this little fellow over here, and as you can see, it got used a little bit before, and it's very ruggedized, and it has a kind of rubber lid, and it also comes in a version. Oh, here we have them all. Fantastic, thank you, Walter. It's something that you can definitely also drop, and it has a very sturdy display. It also comes with a touchscreen interface, right? And as I said, I like this kind of container, storage container, where they can also update the software immediately for all of them. This one over here is, I think it's the 3rd generation of the Intel Classmate PC. This is running on the Intel Atom N270 right now. It comes with 8.9-inch display, 1024 by 600 resolution, and it's also an advertible. That means it comes with a touchscreen display. So as you can see, you can use it as a little tablet, and perfect for kids in my opinion. And finally, where it all came from, the OLPC XO, and as you can see, I mean, this tablet mode was already there. So somehow all these other devices that were following the OLPC XO were kind of evolutions of this maybe very, very first netbook. And in my opinion, this market is very, very big. Netbooks have the perfect form factor for kids. And for schools, I mean, when I remember my school time, I don't know how much money we spent on books in general, and how much books I had to carry with me to school, how many kilograms these were. So think about this: you're buying something like a Classmate PC or an OLPC, for your kids, and they can use it for 5 years. I'm pretty sure you're even saving a lot of money with it, and it makes it easier for schools and school districts to update the content. I mean, how hard is it to get out with a new revision of a school book? It costs a lot of money until you distributed it into the market, while over here you can just update it online. And I think that's what leads me to my second question. How about content providing for netbooks? Right now we've been talking about applications and about ecosystems around it. But somehow I also see a market for content on netbooks. So what is the strategy from the OLPC project? Do you have any content providers or any channels that are distributing content to the OLPC?
There are two main channels. Like the first ones are from the countries themselves. For example, in Uruguay there is a world population having the netbooks, like 400,000 children using the OLPC computer in school. And there is the Ceibal Institute, where teachers with people from education background are working on curriculum. And they are providing content, not only picking up e-books for the ICSO, but e-books, math books, free knowledge, whatever. They are just putting all this content available for the ICSO. And so this is the first channel, country dependent. And the other channel is all the knowledge that people are sharing and all the both networks that we are part from. Like, for example, I'm also part of Wikipedia, which is a Wikipedia for kids in France, and there are ramifications in Spain and in Germany and all over the world. So there is the small, precise movement in the countries, and there is the world movement of free knowledge that is behind this project, providing ebooks, for example, on Internet Archive, and also smaller projects like Project Gutenberg and so on. So there are the two main ways to get and create content. And there is also the content that the teachers and children create themselves. One of the challenges that we have is to make use of all the activities that children and teachers do together in the classrooms. So far, there are, and it's a general problem, it's not only a problem for LPC and ICSO, so far we have many teachers, like, for example, in France, the teachers are the people who are using the most internet and computers at home, but they are still not using it a lot in the classroom, and when they are using it, the content that they are working on and creating doesn't get outside the classroom. So this is all lost knowledge. Some teachers, some very disruptive teachers, are starting to share this content, whether they're using Creative Commons licenses or not. They're just using the normal copyright. They're sharing this knowledge, this content, this small curriculum exercise and so on the network, on the internet, building communities. And we are working also with these teachers to have more content on their side, but for that we need to make them use more laptop. So we need to have more teachers using the notebooks, and we need to have, I think the App Store and whatever software ecology we have is fine to connect the distribution and the developers and open source developers or people who want to make money, whatever. But there is, and we need to have a way to connect the teachers. For education, we need to have a way to connect the teachers with this technology and let them be free about how they use it and how they produce content, and helping them build small communities around that. Because the ministry won't do that for us.
How about you guys, Scott?
Sure. Couple points about content. First of all, there's somewhat of a graying or blurring between apps and content now in app stores. Like, for example, an ebook, you might just purchase it as an application, but simply it's really just content. And so I think we're going to see more and more of that. Applications or content really manifesting itself in the form of applications that are for sale in the store. Secondly, the netbook is really well suited for certain types of content. Even if you compare it to smartphones, just because they have a nice larger screen there, all of a sudden multimedia capabilities are really much more user-friendly there, and reading and interactivity, content with interactivity as well is much more suitable for a netbook. So I do expect that we'll see a lot of new content coming through the App Store. Right now we're in the mode of letting developers decide what they think could be appropriate, and content providers also deciding how they want to take advantage of this. And that's where I think is that's what I'm most excited about, is just opening up to them to see what do they come up with. Because if you would have looked back at the smartphone a year ago, very few applications. You look at this, go, okay, it's a telephone. Maybe you can do some internet and email on there. You would never have guessed the cool types of things you can do on it. For example, you hold up your smartphone in the sky, and on there it'll tell you the constellations and exactly what you're looking at in the sky. Or you can hold up to the music and it'll recognize the song, display that on there. On and on and on. There's really cool, innovative applications and content that's come out of it. That's what I'm really excited about as well for the Atom Developer Program and netbooks as well, is we're also unleashing innovation, and we should probably start seeing all kinds of more contextually aware type of applications emerging for netbooks, which don't exist today. We talked about earlier that a lot of people are just using the netbooks in the home. Well, that's because there really aren't enough apps out there to really take advantage of where netbooks are being taken as well. I like to view the netbook as kind of the sit-down mobile device, where the phone is the stand-up mobile device. You can't use a netbook whether you're standing up, but if you have a few more minutes, 10, 15 minutes to sit down and do something, well, is it nice to pull out a bigger screen and a keyboard, maybe check out the latest entertainment and news information, read a book there, or sitting at the coffee shop for a few extra minutes, or a whole host of new things that I think developers are going to come up with for us.